parents, they would always tell me stories about even Poltergeist. We had Poltergeist in the house, and she was like, "Don't watch that movie too much because all this fucked up stuff happened to the cast after making it, and it's it's cursed." And it was very much that type of deal with The Exorcist, but they just didn't want me to even view it whatsoever. So of course, being rebels the way that we are, that makes you want to watch something even more, And
exactly.
When I watched it, it was just, it fucking scared the shit out of me. Just the way that you said. And I remember when I first met, who my girlfriend is now, Emma Duenas, she asked me, like, because she knew that I was a big, I love all movie genres, but horror is my thing, and she was like, "So what's your favorite? Like, what's a movie that, that's always scared you?" And I immediately said The Exorcist, and she kind of laughed and was like, "Oh, I would never think about that one. Like, really, that movie bothers you?" And I was just like, "Okay, whatever." Miss Bruja over here again. This is a movie that I haven't seen too many times because of how heavy it is. I'll watch bits and pieces of it every, when the season comes around. But as far as watching it from front to back on a regular basis, it's not something that I'll put on necessarily in the background or anything, because it's just really, really kind of dreadful in the best way possible. But I will say that I've been lucky enough to see this on the big screen before. A couple years ago, they screened down here in San Diego the director's cut, and that was great, a great experience watching it in a big dark house. And then we went to see it a couple years ago also during Halloween season at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
Damn.
That's the one of the perfect movies. And I've also seen Poltergeist there, so I guess I can die happy now. But yes, there's very little in this film that you can pick on. It's just a lot of it very much feels almost like a documentary. Let's talk a little bit about the curse, I guess, around the film. Are you aware of any of the weird stuff that happened? And if so, please share.
So it's crazy to think that, first off, I don't know if you read, like, in my research, that it only opening weekend, there was only 24 theaters that were showing it.
Yes.
So that's insane right off the top. And there were cities like across the country and towns that were trying to ban it because of what it was, and movie theaters and cities trying to not let it get into the hands of kids. That kind of is like some of my favorite lore around the movie is obviously you don't ever want to hear about like people dying and stuff like that, but for a picture to make a movie for a movie to make someone faint or throw up mid movie, I want to say, I was reading too that there was a reported heart attack during the movie, which is insane. Which I could totally fucking I wouldn't put it past somebody to have a heart attack watching this movie, especially back then when they weren't really, nothing like this really existed.
Yes.
I even read that there was a fucking miscarriage during it, which is insane, dude. So yeah, I could definitely see why movie theaters in towns and cities were trying to ban it coming to their theater or their city. And the production is wild too. Like I all that stuff that happened. I don't know if you want to talk about like there was a whole bunch of stuff that happened like pre and as they were filming it, right?
Yes. a big one that happened to Linda Blair, the star Regan, is when when we realize that she's possessed by a demon. They start small, where her bed's like levitating and she's kind of flopping all over the bed. There's a specific shot, and I guess they had Linda in this like rig that would kind of like shuffle her around.
Mm-hmm.
And from my research, I guess the harness that she was in broke, and nobody knew while they were filming, so they were shuffling her along, and she's screaming in pain, and everybody thinks that she's just doing one hell of an acting job, but I guess she actually fractured her lower spine just in that one scene, which is horrific. And I think Linda Blair was quoted saying that they didn't even take her to the hospital.
It's insane.
But we also have to, it's important to put into context that when this movie came out, the way that the director at the time, William Friedkin, was operating was under the kind of old Hollywood style, where he was a very take no shit, you're going to do what I say and we're going to get the shots that I want. And he would do some very fucked up things on set to people that would not fly today. And some of the examples, or a big example I have of that, is that he would have this loaded prop gun full of blanks, and right before a scene would happen, he would fire off a blank without telling anyone, to startle the actors, in order to manipulate their emotions into getting them into that frame of mind that he wanted for whatever scene. So that that gives you a kind of a little peek into how that set probably was. During that time is just fucking nuts, dude. And it reminds me of how Stanley Kubrick had a big reputation for fucking just drilling his actors, making them do like 80 to 100 takes for one scene, until he was like, okay, yeah, we got it. And of course, like the controversy between how he treated Shelley Duvall during The Shining. But it was just definitely the Wild West back then, as far as film and what directors were able to get away with.
And then a couple of the actors passed away right after shooting their scenes, right?
Yes, I know. The Karras's mother was one of them that kind of mysteriously passed away, like right after. I know one of they had like a props person, special effects person, that mysteriously died. Not to mention the big thing that's really fucking like makes you think like, okay, something paranormal was going on here, but all their sets burned down, except for Regan's bedroom, which was mysteriously untouched. Like
that's fucking.
How do you explain that? That's that's one big fucking coincidence, right?
Yeah. I think there were deaths like close to the like either they died or they were close to the crew. Like I guess I was reading like the night watchman and the person who was in charge of like the refrigeration of her room had some deaths in the family, and then like a cameraman, like newborn child, died during the production.
But it also kind of begs the question, okay, but how come like the main stars are, besides Max, who's since passed on, but lived a full life, I'd like to think, like, how come they, weren't as affected? Like, why all of these kind of smaller players, bit the dust, as opposed to, some of the people who were more directly involved, is I guess what I'm trying to say. It's kind of strange, you know.
And I think one we haven't even touched on that when my cousin found out we were doing this, she's like, "Are you going to talk about this one too?" I was like, "I'm pretty sure we are." But the one of the doctors that's treating her, that's doing that procedure, like murdered somebody.
That's wild. and you know, and that's covered in the new what is Shudder's Cursed Films episode, which is, it's only 30 minutes long, but I would definitely recommend checking that out for anybody listening who hasn't. Cheap plug. Yeah, that technician that is in the film ended up, I think, murdering a journalist who he was hanging out with, but then he told on himself. I think he called another journalist who was looking into the death and admitted it on the phone and was like, "Yo, this was me. And I can't tell you who I am, or else I'll never be able to practice again." And then somehow the cops were able to, maybe, I don't know, maybe they traced the landline call or what have you. However they would do that back then, but they fucking arrested him, and he, I guess he went out with the journalist, and they were drinking and partying, went back to the pad, and this guy fucking stabbed him to death. Hit him over the head with the frying pan and stabbed him. Another, I don't know if you remember this or not, but Ellen Burstyn, who plays Chris in the film, Regan's mother, was also injured on set in Regan's room. When there's this big scene where Chris is fighting with Regan after she's already possessed, and it's, you know, she has Regan has like this kind of superhuman strength now, and she slaps fucking Chris across the room, and I guess they had her in a rig. And the first time when they pulled back, I guess it wasn't hard enough for Friedkin, the director, so they had them reset the scene and do it again, and then Ellen Burstyn was then injured when she falls, and that's the how do you say, the cut that is used in the film. They used the scene where she was actually injured in real life.
Oh, shit. I was gonna ask you, did they use that scene where Linda Blair was injured? Was that one of the scenes they used?
Yes, that's also in the film when she's flopping back and forth. That is really her
crazy
being hurt. Fucked up. Not to mention, you know, another thing worth noting is that all the demonic stuff, including the super off-putting masturbation with a crucifix scene, that wasn't actually Linda Blair, because, you know, as fucked up as things were back then, they still were like, we cannot use this little girl and have her actually be doing this on film. Mm-hmm. So they hired kind of a stunt double, if you will, to do the scene, and I guess they liked how she was so much that she ended up doing pretty much all the other vulgar stuff for the film. So that's not even Linda Blair. So then when you look back into the lore of the movie, you'll find out that Linda Blair had, you know, when the movie came out and it was hugely successful, obviously, I think it was like the number one profitable horror film up until 2017, Chapter 1, it knocked it down, it dethroned it. But think about how long that was, right? For 2017, 1973, The Exorcist was the number one horror film ever. Long time, long reign. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. But so Linda Blair, when it came out, there was obviously a lot of controversy, and she is the focal point for the movie, obviously. And I guess a lot of people like mentally ill people, if you ask me, thought that she was